It's great to be back. Hi. Hello. So I'm coming from Boca Raton, Florida, sunny, beautiful Boca Raton, Florida today to speak with you about ancestral healing and releasing patterns and beliefs and traits and characteristics, habits, idiosyncrasies that you may or may not know that you're carrying on from generations past. So what we're going to do first is talk a little bit about what is an ancestry. So an ancestry are those generations before you. So that would be your parents, whether they're here in the physical or have crossed over or passed away. So that would be, and your parents' parents, grandparents, both sides, and the like. It would also be all the relatives involved in that too. So your cousins, your uncles, your great uncles, and so on and so forth. So generations before you. Now, ancestral karma can come forward in many ways, and that can be a trend, a pattern, a characteristic, trait, as I had mentioned before. It can be wrongdoings and right doings. So karma is, that word karma sometimes gets a negative throw to it, but it also represents the positives. Now, what do our ancestors bring to us? Well, first of all, they bring us. Okay, so we give gratitude to our ancestors for sustaining themselves to bring us here to where we are today. So I'm always very honoring of my ancestors, very grateful for my ancestors. They are kind. There are many that are kind, wise, healed, that are helping us on our journey. Our ancestors bring us wisdom, bring us strength, resilience, insight, guidance. So there's a lot of very positive aspects to our ancestry. Most of the times there's somebody in our ancestry that has thought about doing ancestral healing. And for whatever reason, whether it's shame, whether it's the time they lived in, whether they didn't have the energy to do it, whether they didn't know how to do it, but wanted to, like they recognized there were destructive patterns in the ancestry, in the generations, and they wanted to change it, but they didn't know how. It's not for lack of wanting. So your ancestors are here today with you as well, applauding you for being interested in learning more about how to heal the ancestry, not only for them, but for yourself and those that come after you, your children, children's children, nieces, nephews, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it's a really exciting topic to talk to you about today. Now, what do we, the aspects around ancestral healing are basically, the goal is to free yourself to be in your own destiny, to be free of any destructive patterns that are coming down the ancestral line. Okay, so you do it for you. Again, you do it for you, you do it for your ancestors, and you do it for those coming forward. Now, there's many ways to identify unhealthy patterns. And one way is to work directly with your ancestors, which we're going to talk a little bit about. So that's more of the spiritual approach to it. And then another way is to just be here on this planet, observing you and your relatives around. Okay, if you have any relatives nearby, or just the traits that you know that they have. Okay. So a couple questions came up though, and these are really profound, and I'll make sure that they get to you in the email after the session today, because they really are very profound. And when you think about them and sit with them, you'll come up with some blocks that you know are coming down from your generation. And the first question is, what experiences do you crave? So what do you crave that you do not have, that it feels like it's just outside of your reach, or blocked, or there's an obstacle in the way? What do you crave? Okay, what experiences? The next one is, how do you most want your life to feel? How do you want to feel? How do you want your life to feel? That still seems like it's a little bit out of your grasp. Okay. And the third one is, what depths of yourself do you wish to experience more of? So you want to go deeper and you still feel like there's something holding you back. What is that? Okay, so identifying with those 3 questions, and again, I'll make sure they get in to the email. They're beautiful questions to sit with. And when you sit with them, you can identify where there might be a block. And where that block is, there's a chance that that's a generational pattern that has been coming down. You didn't know it was there. Could have been drilled in subconsciously when you were a child and you just didn't know, but it's coming forward now for you to heal. And when you heal these patterns or behaviors, traits, etc., then you yourself feel lighter, more free. You have the ability to carve your own path without all the conditioning, I guess, from your ancestry. Okay. So again, keep in mind, we get a lot of positives, a lot of positives, much to be grateful for, right? There's also that other side. Okay. So we're going to first approach this from the standpoint of if you want to work directly with your ancestors. And even if you're not connected in a way with your ancestors by dreams of them or meditation, or whether you practice regression therapy, soul conferencing, things along that line. It's more on the astral level. When you're communicating with your ancestors, there's guided meditations on YouTube that can help connect you with your ancestors if you're interested in that path. Okay. Either way, this is a profound method on. This is just this alone. Reminds me of the 4 agreements when they say that not assuming anything alone can change your life. This alone can change your life. And that is learning to accept your parents exactly the way they are, for all everything about them, accepting them for who they are and understanding that they collected a lot of trauma. They collected a lot of generational patterns, okay, and conditioning as well. Okay, and that it's not necessarily their fault that they did, because a lot of this is ingrained subconsciously. And any traumas that occurred to them, they've got their own. We all have our own stuff. So knowing that they are human, accepting your parents for who they are, period. Okay, that alone will free you of a lot of baggage that we're carrying. Okay. The next one is to acknowledge unconscious loyalties to pain or addictions. So the addictions could be gambling that you see coming down in your from generation to generation. It may go over to an uncle. It may go to a grandparent. It may then go to a great grand uncle, something along that, but you'll see it coming through the generations. And then it may also appear in this generation that you're in right now: gambling, drugs, alcohol, things along that. Chocolate can be an addiction. Addictions to watching TV or being constantly immersed in the external rather than looking into the internal. Okay, so that can also be carried down. It's almost just kind of like an avoidance type thing that can be carried down from generation to generation. And another one is understanding that everybody belongs no matter what. And this is one that I have been working on, because I don't know if any of you attended a previous lecture that I did on emotional healing and physical symptoms, where I went through my own physical symptoms throughout my life. And a lot of it just was based on not feeling love, not feeling like I belong, not knowing why I'm here. Okay. So understanding that everybody is here, you are a pivotal point in your ancestry. Every single person belongs. Okay, really understanding that you belong, and that we must all be given a place and honor in that ancestry. Okay, and then the last one is the subconscious beliefs that I was talking about before, understanding that our subconscious beliefs, so means that things that come up that we don't even know where they come from, they're just there, okay? Could have begun oftentimes begin when we are young, and it's somebody's opinion. It's strictly somebody's opinion. It's not even fact. It's somebody making a comment, okay? And here's us little 2-year-olds going, oh, that must be fact, right? And then we hear it from another person in the family, and another and another and another and another, and then we take that on as truth. And then after we take that on as truth, we immerse that into our own subconscious as truth when it originated completely as an opinion. Okay, so really being able to discern what is generational and what is something that we created here on our own in this lifetime. Okay, so that's another thing. Okay, so how do we do this? Okay, how do we do this? How do we identify this stuff? So when you're working, as I mentioned before, when you're working with your ancestors, you want to contact them. You want to be in contact with them. You can do regression therapy in your dreams, soul conferencing. I mentioned that before, and I've been doing that actually recently. I've been doing a lot of soul conferencing, meditation, and you can get readings from reputable psychic mediums who can contact them, okay, contact your ancestors and work with you. Akashic records are also another way of accessing information from your ancestry, and then working with that and seeing where you might feel something coming down from the ancestry within yourself, okay? Speaking to the family that is here on the planet and doing your own genealogy or having your genealogy done. That's another great way, because then you can get insight into what has occurred in your ancestry and then work on how they might have felt. Like, okay, they were in World War II. How might they have felt? What kind of emotions might they have brought forward from that might resonate with me and mine? Okay. The next one is healing any physical, emotional, or mental traits that may be compromising your own health, okay? So there's a lot of, it comes down, it runs in the family. That's a big one. It runs in the family, something physical, emotional, or mental. It runs in the family. That is a belief system, okay? We are so powerful. We are sovereign beings, okay? We are connected through an ancestry, but we are sovereign. So if we don't take on that belief, then that belief doesn't have any bearing on us, okay? So it's basically, you can choose to give your power away to the ancestry when they're going, no, don't give your power away, heal this, or you can choose to heal it and say, no, that might be a belief system, I'm not going there. That's it, okay? So the big words, this condition runs in the family, is absolutely a belief system that can be eradicated 100%. And that's the good news. All of this can change, okay? And you can change it. And the next one is to incorporate all your ancestral strengths and wisdom within you. So again, giving just gratitude to your ancestry because you're a product of 1,000, 2,000, a million loves. I mean, our ancestry grows so large that you literally could walk into somebody that you're related to on the street, okay? And that's why kindness matters. Be kind to everyone as if they're your brother or sister, because they may well be related to you, okay? In the world of energy, we are all related. Absolutely, 100%, we're all related. So if you are not comfortable or not driven towards working with your ancestry directly in that spiritually minded, guided way, there's other ways that you can do it, and that is observing what's going on right here on the planet. Okay, trends in your family right here and now. So let's elaborate a little further on what is a generational pattern or a trait. And that would be, so I'll go through some examples. One might be, before we go into the healing, one might be fears, okay? Fears of heights, okay? I can give you an example. I remember my father was afraid of heights. He could fly in a plane, no problem, because he was encased, right? But driving in a car up a very tall bridge would like set him off big time. Mountains, things along that line, he didn't feel comfortable. Now that came down to some of my siblings. Okay, one in particular that I can think of that is afraid of heights. I also have a little bit, not too much, when it comes to going up those high bridges. But it's like, where did that come from? Where does fear of heights come from? Okay, so I know it was within my father, and likely either he started it or it started further back. Okay, that's something that you can change. Okay, actually, you can change all of it. Next would be like fear of hospitals or fear of going in the ocean because one of your relatives got bit one time. And so in the family, they go, oh, don't go in the ocean because cousin so-and-so 8 generations back got bit. Okay, so so we create a lot of stories from stories, and then they become like facts for us. Yeah, I can't go in the ocean because I might get bit. Okay, so the fears. Others are habits and idiosyncrasies. So what do you see going on around you? Such as, do your relatives listen to the TV really loud? Have to have very loud noise around them all the time as distractions or what have you? Do they brush their teeth with their left hand when they're right-handed? Is that an idiosyncrasy or a habit that comes forward? Taking quarters and rubbing them together, something along that line. Some people hum all the time, some people whistle. Where did all that come from? Where did they learn it? Okay, did that come down from the generations? Can it be changed? Absolutely, right? So these, the ones that are more negative are the ones that we want to focus on, because we may not get a hang up about brushing the teeth with the left hand, but as far as more of the negative traits are ones that we definitely want to focus on removing out of our energy field, out of our life, so that we can be more joyful and free. Okay, so attitudes about, so attitudes are another one. Attitudes about marriage, attitudes about certain socioeconomic groups, attitudes about ethnic groups. Those are all generational stuff, okay? Unless you're the first one that starts it, it came down from somebody else, okay? Beliefs about money, that's a big, okay? So a belief that our families never had enough will also create a belief system within you, potentially, that you will never have enough money. Or something like, our family has always struggled with money, I guess it's just my lot in life. That's basically just giving your power away and saying that's just a fact, when it could have been an opinion from somebody generations back. So we want to be very careful about what we're thinking and where this came from. Where did this belief come from? Oh, well, my mother always said, we have to save every penny. We have to save every penny. Now, my ancestry, so my parents were children of the Great Depression. So they were taught that there was lack, and they were taught that they had to be very careful with money, and they were their entire lives very careful with money. And so that it has also gone into some of my siblings. Okay, I'm not one of them. I did not get that little money fear thing going on, but some of my siblings did. Okay, so it does pass on. It doesn't go to everybody. Sometimes it skips generations, but it will show up again. Okay, until somebody decides to heal it. All right. Negative thinking. life struggles, thinking that life is a struggle. That's a big one with a lot of families, because if your family has struggled in the past, then that story potentially can come right on down, and you can believe that life's a struggle and not really know, not really even have any basis to, to put it on, not to understand why you feel that way. Those are the types of beliefs and patterns that come down. And once you recognize them, then you can start to heal them, okay, and move on. Some people, some families have poor relationships. They have no known idea of how to speak with one another. And that pattern goes from generation to generation to generation. Poor communication. It just absolutely, we don't talk about it. We put lipstick on a pig, we brush it under the rug, and that's the end of it. Okay. You can change that. You can choose to speak your piece. You can choose to speak your truth. You can choose to let people know how you feel in your family. And it may be really super uncomfortable because everybody else in the family is used to not talking about their feelings. Okay. So we have to be mindful of that they may not take it very well. However, for your own healing, for your own sake, for your children and children's sake, you want to start speaking your truth if that's something that's going on in your family, okay? The next one, my family doesn't believe college is necessary. So a lot of families don't believe college is necessary. Well, what if you decide that you'd like to go to college? What if you want to make a change? You want to learn something new? And the whole family is just like, what do you need that for? You don't need college to be successful. Skip that stuff, right? So you're getting all that pressure from the family saying, don't take that class. You don't need that class. I'll tell you everything you need to know. Okay. So these are beliefs and patterns and traits that get brought down from the generations before us. Let's see, messages that I spoke about before. So these would be opinions of others, like, I have to do everything myself. Okay, you ever hear a relative say that? I have to do everything myself. There could also be life is extremely difficult if I were to leave this town. Okay, so this would be a physical thing. When a family stays in a small town for generations and generations because one person in the 1800s left the town and he wasn't successful or she wasn't successful. So she ended up coming back to the town and formulating a fact that if I leave this town, I won't be successful. That's a very limiting belief. And that comes down then the generations into 2000 here. And we're just like, why do I feel like if I leave this town, I'm not going to be successful? Because somebody back in the 1800s wasn't very successful, and it became a truth in the family. Okay, so this is how really damaging some of these generational beliefs can be to us, because honestly, if you step outside of your comfort zone and take a couple risks and leave the town without that notion, then you'll be successful. Okay, so we have to really, really be focused on wanting to make the change. But first, we have to be able to identify what it is. Okay, so that's what we're going to get into next. So some of the belief systems. One is, none of my family ever had enough money. Okay, so I have to be the one to save. So I mentioned that before. Money's a really big. There's also oppressive beliefs that come up that I just mentioned before as well, where I can't leave the town, I don't need to go to college, and those are very oppressive. So again, we want to look at it. We may have people in the family, and this would be more of habits, I guess, or traits where they don't have the ability to apologize for anything, take responsibility for anything, belief that the women or men will let you down. That's another one. So we don't want these beliefs to limit us in our potential to fulfill our lives, in our potential to reach our highest destiny, our highest possibilities if we have all this crap from the past telling us otherwise. Like, no, don't do that. Be afraid of that. Don't do that. No, our family's never done that. Our family's never gone over to Europe and started a new life and this and that. So the way showers, the yous, the me's that are interested in doing this work are becoming the way showers. We're choosing to do something differently. And that is how you change, then cut the ties with the generational patterns that don't really serve the negativity, okay? So some people feel, well, I have the worst luck. Where'd that come from? Where'd that come from? To create that? Or did you hear that somewhere? I have the worst luck, right? That's a bad one. Another one is she only wants me for my money, or he's not going to stay around, he's going to leave. Where did that get formulated in the first place? Where was there evidence of that in the previous generations before you? And if you look, you might find it. Okay, so a lot of it is doing your own detective work, which is very interesting, I might add. And you might find just what you're looking for. Like, I feel this way, and then thinking back, how did my mother and father behave in this instance? How did they react to it? And then think back, how did my grandmother react to it? As far back as you can remember, you'll start seeing patterns. Then you know it's a generational pattern, okay? All right, so that, like I mentioned, that's the good news. The good news, I mean, that's the bad news. The good news is you can change it all. If someone says this runs in the family, you say this is where it runs out, okay? I'm done with that. I'm not going to go down that path with that belief. And that's how much power we have to do that. So why would anybody want to continue doing a behavior or a pattern that really doesn't serve them? Why would you want to do that? Out of false loyalty to who? Okay, an ancestor that had a bad experience down the road, down the past there? No, they wouldn't want that for you. They want us to be as free as they wanted to be. And like I said before, many of your ancestors have tried to heal, okay? And many of them have succeeded, okay? There's things that we potentially could have had come down that could have been very destructive to us that our ancestors did take care of, okay? So again, ooh, way to go. Thank you so much, ancestors. All right. So this will benefit, again, not only yourself, your ancestors who are cheering you on, and your future generations. Now, if you have children and children's children, your grandparent, great-grandparent, things along that line, what you can do in the here and now is heal yourself, then speak. Speak to your children. Say, this is something I've seen in myself that is destructive, that's not good for me. And I understand where it's coming from now. I'm at peace with it. I have resolved it. And I want to share it with you so you can do the same if you choose to do so. So we're not going to approach our family as a, you must do this, but giving them the option to, right? And then that way, if you tell your children who may be, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 years old, right? You tell your children 20, 30, or mine are in their 20s. So so wherever your children are in their experience, if they're adult children, then they may choose to want to heal it, okay, before they have children, and then so on and so forth, okay? So now, just having this conversation so far, well, more of a monologue, I guess, so far, you may have already thought about a couple things that you see coming down the generation, okay? Coming down to you. You may have already identified just from hearing this, okay? So that would be like, my great-grandfather was here, and then he may have passed that to my grandfather, who then may have passed it to my my grandmother, and then not grandfather, then my mother, and then down to me, kind of thing. Like just kind of connecting the dots to see what pattern might have come down. So that's the cool stuff. So we're going to go through 5 steps to breaking these patterns. Okay. And then number 1 is recognizing it, being aware that it's there. Okay. This is through reflection from introspection. This may take you time. Okay. However, a year from now, you'll be glad you started today. Okay. You'll be glad you started thinking about it today. Because a year from now, even if you put just a little bit of time in here, a little bit of time in there, and when it creeps back into your head and you go, yeah, that's something I've been thinking about, it may take time. It may take a day to identify and say, yeah, I didn't like that pattern. I see the pattern now, and I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to change my behavior and do something differently, or it may take a month, it may take a year. Okay. So the first one is reflect on it and introspection. Okay, allow yourself to go in and think about, where might this belief have come from? Where did this come from? Okay, so another thing about the reflection and introspection is you want to do it without judgment. So you want to see it within yourself. This is something I do. Then you want to think about your ancestry and say, yeah, I believe my grandmother did that, or my parents did that as well. So you want to do it without judgment, okay? Because remember, they got it too, okay? They inherited it from somebody as well, most likely, okay? And again, sometimes we're the creators of the traits. Sometimes we are. Oftentimes it's coming down, okay? So that means that your parent that acted in that way maybe had a huge attraction to fine art or something like that, right? Well, that's not really a negative thing. Let's think of something negative. Okay, actually, that's actually a really positive thing. So let's stick with the negative. So we want to change the negative. So let's say the ancestor had a negative behavior and it came down through to you. You don't want to have judgment of that ancestor for it, because they most likely got it from another. Okay. All right. So you want to dig deep in this. This is when you want to be the detective and take time to let it mellow like a fine wine. Just let it mellow, not stressing yourself out. You can pray on it and ask for guidance and just say, give me some more information here, please. I could use some more information to help me with this. So looking for patterns of your own. Okay, looking at your own patterns. Do you have money problems? Do you attract friends that complain? Did you believe that work was a struggle? Okay, what patterns do you have? Okay, so that's super important. And so with that introspection and reflection, you're identifying negative things that you don't really know why it's about. And then you're looking at your ancestry without judgment. Okay, so that's all under the reflection and introspection piece. The next one is, what triggers that belief? What triggers it in this day to day? Usually it's something visual or something verbal that you hear that triggers that emotion, triggers that feeling, triggers that pattern. So let's say your husband acts like your father. So then you in turn around and start acting like your mother, because it was what you saw. It is what came in, the belief systems, the behaviors, the traits, it's what you saw. So then you realize, you go, oh my God, I'm acting just like my mother. How many of us have said that before? Okay, was it in a good way? Because if it wasn't, then that's something you might want to address. Okay, so what was the trigger? What triggers it? And when it does trigger, what is your reaction to it? And have you seen that before somewhere in a parent or aunt, uncle, and so on and so forth. The third is to make space to deal with it, okay? And this is, again, giving yourself time to deal with it. Some of these generational negative patterns have been around for a long, long time, and they're very deeply ingrained, okay? So having patience with yourself, digging. Journaling is a great way to do it. Hey, this just came up to mind. Maybe so-and-so was influenced by money because they lost their job on the railroad in the 1800s. So maybe that's where something came through, right? So you're allowing yourself to really empty the baggage little by little, and knowing that there's a lot of it in there, okay? Because we all have it. We all have baggage. And again, you're not judging yourself. You're not judging the other members of your family. You're just looking at it from an observer perspective. Oh, wow. And wow, that could have happened. Wow, yes, I get it. And the more that you do this, and I can attest to this, the more that you let go, the more that you empty that baggage, the lighter you will feel. You will feel physically like you've lifted something off your heart. You've released a heart wall. You've released something that's just not serving you any longer, and you will feel energetically lighter. Okay, that's how you really know that it's taking effect. So give yourself time and space to discover more about yourself, things that you don't like about yourself, where they may have started, okay? And then making those changes, those subtle movements to start moving that out, okay? Before you're doing all the moving out and things along that line, although you can start moving things out today if you wish to, so unpacking, while you're doing some of the heavy lifting or heavy releasing, I guess, your other family members may be uncomfortable, okay? They may not really know what you're doing or why you're doing it. So if you can give them a little snippet of what you're trying to process at this time, then they may have something to contribute to it that will help you along your way. And so you can ask for help. You can say, hey, if you've got any ideas or if you have anything that you can contribute to help me process this experience that I had with our family in this lifetime, help me process it so that I can release it and potentially release it from all the future generations as well. Not potentially, actually, okay? So so you're being kind to yourself. You may notice that your family's distancing a little bit because they're like, okay, she's talking about something I'm not really comfortable about, and let it be. It's just, you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with distancing yourself and also potentially seeing them distance from you for a while you're processing it. So it's super important though to at least give them a little idea of what you're trying to process, whether it's abandonment, whether it's betrayal, whether it's feelings of rejection. Where did that come from? Well, let me think about this. I'm going to think about this. But if you have anything you can contribute and if you have a particular instance in mind where you felt abandoned or felt betrayed, that you can give them so that they can think about it too, and maybe put themselves in your shoes and have some empathy and compassion for you. Okay, so let them know what's going on. And then what you want to do is, once you identify it and you say, okay, I am doing my work on this and I'm ready to release this, I'm going to amend it without any pressure on myself. Okay, so I'm not going to I'm not going to just cut this out because most likely it's something deep. Okay, so you want to be very gentle with yourself, very loving with yourself. If it is a fear of some form, fear of rejection, something along that line, then you want to do the work on how to overcome that fear. And while you're doing it, you want to be super, super, super good to yourself. And also remember that what you're doing when you're making any changes, okay, to yourself that is going to affect everybody around you in a positive way. It's huge. It's so, so huge. Even if it seems to be a small change, it's huge. It's more than anybody else has done in the generation on that particular subject, okay? Because you're the one that's breaking the tie. All right? Yes. Okay, so let's see, what was I going to speak about next? Right, okay. So the 5 again are recognize the trend, notice the triggers, okay? Make space to deal with it. So give yourself space. Tell your relatives or tell a relative who will most likely tell other relatives, right? What's going on? Okay, I'm working on this and I may be silent for a while, and I certainly would appreciate any information that you can give forward, and then amend it slowly. So doing the healing process. It may, I don't know, maybe you'll be guided to do some therapy. Maybe you'll be guided to get into meditation. Maybe you'll be guided to, if it's something to do with the physical body, maybe you'll be guided to take better care of yourself. And when you go out to eat with family, you're going to eat something more healthy than the rest of the family. Okay, making those changes and no judgment, not judging yourself. If they pressure you in any way, let that go. Just understand that they are in the pattern and you're the one that's breaking it. Okay, so it's powerful, very, very, very powerful work. Okay, so I want to tell you about one that I discovered recently. Excuse me. Well, actually, I discovered it a while ago, but it came back up into my mind recently. Excuse me for a moment. So I've been working with my mom a lot, and she and I were very close in this lifetime. I lived probably 10 minutes away from her for 47 of my years. And so we grew very close. And so I wanted to see like some of the things that made her tick and some of the belief systems I might have picked up from her. And one of them is I can't depend on men. Okay, I can't depend on men. They're not there for me when I need them to be, right? So where did that come from? Now, for me, it was not very strong in this lifetime. However, I see the pattern. So I'll go back to my great grandmother, Matilda, I believe. Well, she was called Grandma Moody. Grandma Moody had 3 children, and her husband, Arthur, passed away at the age of 42 as a result of an injury that occurred on the railroad. Okay, and this is what we have learned through a family friend that did the genealogy. Okay, this is how this happened. So Grandma Moody was left alone with 3 kids. I believe it was 1919 that she, and my grandmother was 8 years old. So the kids were still young, and here's Grandma Moody without a husband. Okay, now I got to do it on my own. To my recollection, she never remarried. Okay, and she raised her children alone. Maybe this brought forward a belief that the men in my life disappeared and I have to do this on my own, which is also a strength in many ways. Okay, makes it for a very strong woman. However, there might be some trust issues that could come up from that, or beliefs that, hey, I got to do this on my own. This is just my lot in life. Okay, I have to do this. So then my grandmother one of her children grows up, my grandmother, and she marries a gentleman who is, for lack of a better word, just kind of like a butterfly. He's here and then he's gone. He's here and then he's gone. He's kind of just jumped around a lot. So my grandmother has had two children, my mother and her sister, and she had to raise them on her own. And this would be back in the 30s. Okay, so my grandmother chose to get a divorce in, I think it was about 1935, which for those of us that are in recollection of that time, it wasn't really a very accepting time to get a divorce. Okay, so there's a lot of social stigma around that. And so she had my mother and my aunt moved to her mother's in Iowa, while she went to Chicago to make a life for herself and save money so she could bring the children to her later on. Well, that took a 5-year process. Okay, so here's my grandmother making money to send home to take care of her children because she can't depend on the man. Okay, she had to do it on her own. I have to do this on my own. Again, created an extremely strong woman. Okay, also though, there might be some trust issues around that and that abandonment feeling perhaps. Okay, so then comes my mother. She grows up and she marries a man that travels all the time. Okay, so my father traveled much of our lives with IBM, and he was gone Monday through Friday. So my mother had to raise the 5 children on her own. Okay, so you see where this patterning comes in, and it's the circumstances, it's who we're attracting, it's how we interpret life. I've got to do this on my own. I can't depend on him to help me because he's not here. Now, this doesn't mean that any of these men were bad men. It was the grandfather, okay, my grandfather, who was kind of flighty. That might have been how he was raised. Okay, that's his thing. No judgment here. These were all good men. Okay, it was just the way it was. So where did this belief come in? That I have to do it on my own. It could have started way before my great grandmother, but it came through, and then I started thinking of my own when I got married. And within a few, I would say within a year of my marriage, my husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he crossed over when our son was almost 3 years old. Okay, so here goes, I'm like, where is this coming from? Now I have to do this on my own. And so that belief system carried on for a while. And then I met the father of my other 2 children, right? And now this is interesting because I can remember there were times when I said to myself, I have to do this on my own. I'm not going to get support from him on this. And yet he was a very supportive husband, okay? But it was still something in there, something in my head. At times I'd be like, I've got to do this on my own. And I didn't know why, right? So when it came to my awareness, I was able to start moving that out and start saying, I'm going to ask for support from men, whether it's men at work, whether it's spouses, whether it's brothers, whether, other members of my family that are male, I'm going to ask for support. Now, I had this conversation with my daughter last night. I said, how are you with asking men for assistance, like your boss or your dad or your brother or your boyfriend, right? And she goes, I'm pretty good with that. And I said, that's amazing. That's good. So you can start seeing that the behavior or the belief system is shifting, okay? And it could have started shifting with my mother, could have started shifting with me. But we're making the moves, we're moving it, we're moving that energy, we're breaking that connection. We're no longer believing that we have to do things alone, like my great-great-grandmother did, okay? So, and never got remarried again, and that was it. I got to do it on my own. So that's a personal instant where I just sat with myself and I looked back and I saw the patterns and the trends. And so, and even in myself, I saw it. Even when I had no reason to believe it, it was there. Okay. So that's what I'm talking about. Like really sitting with yourself, really embracing yourself non-judgmentally and just allowing yourself to expand into your ancestry. It's a really cool trip. I recommend it highly to everybody to take a look at it, because you're making differences, you're making changes, you're making really positive changes for yourself and those that are going forward from it. Okay, so I just wanted to open that up then now. Oh gosh, we only have 9 minutes. So, oh, before we do, I did pull a card from Nicole's Namaste deck. This is a beautiful deck, and it's just a beautiful picture, a nice introspective picture. They're always so perfect. And it says, a blessing from your soul. It says, you are a beautiful soul full of infinite wisdom. Where did you get that from, right? Stop judging and start loving yourself. You are blessed with endless potential and on the verge of transforming into the radiant being that is your true essence. Shine your light and allow this blessing into your heart. So I will open up with that.
All right, well, that was amazing. I see Yvonne, you have your hand up, and I see a couple of chats. So go ahead, Yvonne.
Okay, thanks to Diane for this beautiful presentation.
Absolutely,
And
thank
Diane,
you.
while you were talking, I was thinking about the trait in my family. When you look at all the male from my father's side, they all have a reclining hairline, receding.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
the receding hairline. And the ladies, the female, all born with a patch of gray hair in the back.
Wow, that's
And
interesting.
yes, when we asked our mom, why all the girls have that? She said, because they are great, great, great. And she just called me the great, great, great. And it's coming from way back. And it's later in my life that I knew that that was a trait that we get from the family, called the family trait.
Family trait.
Right. And then most of the male were born in the country area. My father was a farmer, and the brothers were farmers, and the sons started become farmers. But in the midst, there was one of the male that didn't want to do anything in farming. He said, my hands were not made to go to the ground. So we were wondering, where did he come from? Was he an outsider? Or why wasn't he following the trend? And those questions keep bothering us for a while. Then we learned that we are all alike but different. And yes. I can hear it from you, Diane, today. So, that makes me feel very good and confident and accepting anything that I see in my family that is not a trait. Right. And thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's beautiful. Yes, and yes, whoever mentioned about the card, yes, the card will be on the email as well as those 3 questions.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing.
So I see here, there was a note from Luana and from Faye, and Faye had written in, sometime you live with a family member who keeps being negative and referring to the trait of the ancestors. How do you cope? This is an awesome presentation, just letting you know.
Oh, that's beautiful. So is there a question in there?
Yeah, so you live with a family member who keeps being negative and referring to the trait of the ancestors. How do you cope?
Okay, so what you can do is choose to change the trait within yourself. Now, if the ancestor is an adult, like I mentioned this with the family, you can put it out there and say, this trait can be changed by us deciding to be more positive people. We don't have to stay stuck in this rut. We can come out by doing things that are positive and change this. Do you want to join me? And if they don't, then do it for yourself. because that sounds like something that you definitely don't want for yourself to perpetuate going forward.
Okay. So Luana wrote in that she has an unreasonable, embarrassing fear that of anyone touching or poking at her ears. She's had hearing loss and goes to an ENT. So she's examined her ears. She suggested that something negative might have happened in another life to her that causes this. It was thought, she thought it was an odd question at the time, but maybe not. How can she get rid of that fear? It's like something with the ear that she's like, keeps going back to.
So I don't know. And who is this that? put that in?
Luana.
Luana. Okay. So Luana, you could potentially, if you're open to, visit a hypnotherapist that specializes in regression therapy, because they can take you back to the time that if there was any past life experiences where you were harmed in your ear, then you can heal that experience and then also heal yourself in this lifetime. Okay, it's fascinating. I had a session with a hypnotherapist here in Boca Raton a couple of weeks ago on natal regression. And so I went back into my mother's womb and I felt everything. Okay, so this regression therapy is very powerful. That way you could rule out whether or not it is a past life experience or it is a belief system that came down through the generations. So that's just an idea of where you might want to start.
Okay. And then Rose asks if you recommend meditation to help with the idea of getting into the changes of things in her life.
Meditation, absolutely. Meditation is amazing. There is a free app. There's a lot of free apps actually out there. There's one, it's called Insight Timer, that has thousands and thousands of meditations. You can choose the length of the meditation. You can choose guided or music or shamanic drumming, whatever turns you on, right? If you're just beginning a meditation practice, then I would recommend that you do guided meditations first, okay? Because that way they help you get kind of into that space. They do a lot of breath work and then get you in that space so that you'll be very successful on your meditations.
Where other than on the internet do you recommend? Are there people that help with this that
Absolutely.
I can find?
Absolutely. You can go out on Meetup. There's Meetup groups. You can go out on Facebook and look at the events. There's meditation events posted out there on Facebook. If you're in a development that does social activities, you might be able to find a meditation group within your around you if you ask the questions to whoever's handling the social calendar, so to speak. So
Yeah,
yeah.
Meetup is a good one. Meetup, you can really go
Meetup's
on.
good.
It's free.
Yeah.
You just search it. Meditation groups, you could put in where you're from, and they have local ones, and they could do them virtually. I'm sure a ton of them go online these days and in person, but definitely can find virtual as well. And then Mary wrote in that, thanks for not saying to move. I live with my sister and we have disagreements, and all she keeps being told to move as opposed to fixing.
Gotcha. Yeah. All righty then. That's awesome.
So yeah, so I mean, this has been so insightful. So many. Is there anyone that has any other questions for Diana about this, or anything that comes to mind that might have resonated with you during the presentation that you want to add or ask? Anything? Anyone?
Just
Okay.
enjoy this journey and know that your ancestors are right there applauding you on. Okay, just know that this is just the fact that you came on today to learn about ancestral healing is amazing. It's amazing. And if anything resonates with you on this and you take it forward with you and you act upon it, then you're doing a solid for yourself, for your ancestry, and for all those coming forward.
Oh, Sabrina has her hand up. Go ahead, Sabrina.
Thank you. Hey, Diana. Good to see
Hey,
you.
how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I just want to say that, I love spending the hour with you and just hearing the positive ways of holding ancestors, because it's just so much more peaceful to go
Mhm.
there than to be in the other place, which is it's heavier. I prefer to be lighter and live in that peace that you're talking about, because I feel like if you can be accepting, there's so much more peace in that for me. So thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's so powerful. There's so much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
So much to be grateful for.
No matter
Thank
what, you could always find something, right?
Absolutely. And
Sometimes you
like
gotta
you said,
dig, but you could find it, right?
yes, and the acceptance is, as I had mentioned, and you just mentioned again, the acceptance, when you can accept your parents for who they are, that is so powerful, because that's a biggie, because they are the ones that are kind of formed your belief systems when you were young. So accepting them for being human, they're very powerful.
Yeah.